July is upon us, and as I told you, the rains would stop and the heat is on, so we're ready to let's get growing. Well, in July, we're going to mow once a week and raise that mowing height as the night temperatures get up there. And by mowing once a week, we're also not letting the weeds go to seed, so we have less weeds in the lawn. You want to plant during July, then you can put out gladiolas, and here's some annuals that you can plant. And use the seed. You could go out and buy the plants, but I'm suggesting these as seeds and thin them by grabbing hold of the leaves and moving them to new locations. Spread them out to at least a foot apart and you'll have a beautiful flowering landscape. You want to do new lawn, you're going to have to do it from sod, because if you do it from seed, there's a chance that we might not get a strong enough root system before we get into winter. Hand water dry spots, newly planted areas, and your annuals as needed. Make sure to keep your azaleas moist at this time because they're forming their buds to bloom in the spring. And if you let them dry out, they'll drop those buds and you don't have another chance for those spring bloomers. So keep the azaleas moist. And remember, during these hot months of summer, this is when we deep water. Don't sprinkle, soak it deep so that we can force that root system down. They're also building reserves at this time to help them go through winter. So they're starting way ahead, building those reserves, and we need to help them along. Okay, now we're going to mulch, remember? You want to keep that soil cool, keep the weed seeds down. So, mulch your bare spots and newly planted areas. I know that you're itching to prune, but hold back. We only want to do dead or diseased wood in the middle of July, because if we prune anymore, we're going to hurt them more than help them. You're going to need to watch for several insects, chinch bugs and grubs, and treat as needed. Red spiders on marigolds, and also your junipers or your evergreens and your verbena. Make sure that you water and then come back in a couple of days and fertilize. If you don't, then you're going to actually suck moisture out of the roots and burn them. This is not true for your lawn. And then also fertilize your chrysanthemums, and if you have the taller variety, remember that you're going to have to stake those. And then also your alyssum, petunia, verbena, but after you shear the tops off of them, because then they're really going to flower for you. And then the daisies will have bloomed, so you're going to cut the stalks off all the way back down to the ground, leave that nice foliage, and then fertilize. Some other suggestions on water is water before they wilt, particularly in the vegetable garden. Keep the compost wet. People sometimes forget, but if it's not wet, it's not going to break down. And then keep the weeds pulled, because they rob the plants of needed moisture. Okay, now careful and frequent cultivation of the soil with just a little 3-prong rake right on top of the soil is going to keep it from caking, and that'll make it more friable or loose so that the water can go in and not just run off. The deeper you go, the more weed seeds you're going to bring up. Okay, one last thing. Go ahead and separate your lily bulbs, candidum or spider, and share them with a friend. All right, what we're going to do today is talk about container planting, and we're going to talk about compatibility. This is what we call mother-in-law's tongue, but its scientific name is sansevieria. This is a cactus, and I'm not sure the variety, but if you look, it trails. So what have I told you about containers? You've got to have a thriller, a filler, and a spiller. So this is going to be our filler around the edge and the spiller. I've picked this container because it has this upward movement, and so I'm going to mimic that with this plant material. Now I wanted to show you that right here, you can see that this is how this makes little babies. So what you're going to do is sever this root, this big thick root right here, and then you'll move this one to a new container. I have this huge hole in the bottom of this container. And if I just put soil in, it's going to fall through. So, in order to eliminate that, I found this piece of bark. And it was in the soil, so I just take it and put it over the hole in the container, but not to where it covers it totally. If you look through it, you can see through it. So I know I'll get drainage. And so we're going to take this out of the container, and then very carefully, I'm going to sever it right here. And now I'm at 2. And then I can still see, it's a little wiggly right here. I can make 3, and look, we'll get 4. So now we know that we have plenty to hang over the container. Now then, we want to make sure that we put some soil in the bottom, and we don't want to plant them too deep. And notice that I'm barely packing the soil. I'm not cramming it in. Barely pack the soil. And then let's check the depth, because we're actually going to plant a little bit deeper so that they won't fall over. And we know that these are going to go in deeper than our cactus. Then I'm just bringing it up a little bit at a time. And now I'm adding soil as needed. And don't forget that these had a gap in the middle. So I have to make sure that I get a little soil in between them too. Look, it'll stand by itself. Now then, our filler spiller is going to go in. And we just dig out a little hole. And we're just going to have to work it around, slowly but surely. Dig it out. Push it in. And I push it into the soil, making sure that we've got it in there nice and firm. Voila! And we have the beautiful succulent plant that you have done for yourself. You have a container. And I'll tell you what, if you went out and bought this, it would cost you at least $30 or $40. So you just saved yourself a pretty penny by recycling a container and taking 2 plants and making a beautiful plant that you'll live with for years. So, July is going to be even hotter than June. August is coming up. We know it's going to be even warmer. So let's make sure that we're preparing our landscape for next month. And so by following the instructions I've just given you, you too will get growing and be able to have the best landscape around.